about that. Generally, our AGMs are held in January, like the January.
Yeah, yeah.
That means we anticipate a lot of the members won't be available for the meeting. And because the agenda goes out weeks before, and maybe discuss new members and also new executive members that we believe benefit roles.
Yeah.
What we do there is those members that aren't able to attend but would still like to vote, find a proxy for someone who would be attending, and they'll vote on their behalf.
Yeah. So is that, like, do you have any allowance for that in your constitution?
No, we don't. But it's just been a practice to ensure that everyone gets the opportunity, because we hold our AGM in January. And that's a particular, I guess, with our societies, that we need to be up and ready at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And so we've made an allowance for that to ensure that the members are well represented when it comes to the elections of the new executive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can actually double check that in Robert's rules if you like, and just get back to you on that. But I mean, I'm sure if it's something that you've agreed on in your society, it's kind of, you know, depends if your society's okay with that.
Yeah, I think generally, because the idea is to ensure that everyone gets a say.
Yeah.
Those ideally, those that are wanting to take on an executive role really need to be there.
Yeah.
For that AGM. And what we usually do immediately afterwards is that if a new president is elected, they chair the general meeting that happens immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So we hold our general meeting on the same day.
And I am certainly aware that does happen.
Cool. Eloise, finish with that segment.
So we might just jump back to tips, and yeah, whatever Ingrid says goes, because she's the person that looks at your AGM and says whether or not it's legitimate. So Ingrid's words are gospel. So with tips, yeah, you can write on paper, but really you should be minuting online just so that it's accessible for everyone. And I might just note here as well, if you have members of your society who have accessibility issues, you should consider the format that you're using. Like Word documents, usually text readers can read pretty well, but if you provide PDFs, they can't, or they aren't as good. So just consider that. So there's not much to say about this page. So next slide. Oh, yeah, it's important to know, you know, who everyone is, because as we talked about before, you need to reflect who's in the room so that if someone reads it back later, they know who was in the room. You can circulate an attendance list and get everyone to write their names down. It depends on how many people you've got. If it's just a small meeting with 15 people, you can probably just go around and do it yourself. But if it's like a large AGM that you're running in person where you've got 50 students, then yeah, an attendance list that you hand around would be the ideal way, or have it at the door. It's important that you record motions, who moved and seconded them, and it's important that you note that they were passed or if they weren't passed. And you might also want to write passed unanimously if they were. Yeah, and you can write how many for or against, and it depends on the formality of the motion as to whether or not you want to do that. Next slide. Yeah, I already said this, but write the minutes as soon as possible if you can. The other thing that I do in my work is I record the meetings so that then I don't need to do that. If you're going to record online, even if it's hybrid and you record it online so you can hear, make sure that everyone knows that it's being recorded and you have consent of everyone. So it's probably good to write it on the agenda that you're going to minutate from the recording afterwards. Cool. So the only other thing we are going to do in regards to this is a bit of a mock meeting. Chris, do you have the Word document version?
Yeah, that's should be, so on everyone's workbooks, page 21, there's a complete your agenda. It's got some, we've removed most of the red writing in there. And then also we've got, so that the agenda's page 21, but the meeting minutes are page 28. So we want to go through the minutes one. the blank
Yeah.
one and do the roll.
The minutes. But can you send me the Word document so that I can share screen and edit?
Yep.
What we're going to do is we're going to run through a fake meeting. So we're going to make up a pretend society. We can do it with Liam as president and me as secretary, but it would be fun if other people wanted to participate as community members. Location and the time that I put at the top of the minutes generally isn't the time that the meeting was opened. It's usually the time it was scheduled for. And then you would write meeting opened 10:05 a.m. if you wanted. So Liam, do you want to chair the meeting?
Cool. All right, welcome everyone to the general meeting of Ingrid's Flamingo Society. We'll start, obviously we've done North Country earlier, we won't jump back into that early. So to start off with, we'll start who is present. So we've got Chris and the one and only Ingrid here present, Eloise.
One moment.
I'm sure you don't want to write every single person's name.
I'm going to. Okay.
Almost confident that's not how you spell Ingrid's surname.
It is. Oh wait,
Yeah.
there was an issue with that's not. Yeah, there.
And apologies, we've got Bronwyn over the back who's currently carrying a hot water cylinder, so she's not part of the meeting right now. And Elias is nowhere to be seen, so he's definitely an absent.
Observers.
Siska can be an observer, sure. Impressive spelling.
Okay.
So in the meeting pack, obviously the minutes from the previous meeting of Ingrid's Flamingo Appreciation Society were circulated. Chris, Ingrid, did you have any amendments to those meeting minutes? No. All right, well, I'll move, as the circulator, I'll move that the minutes were accurate. Would anyone like to second? Ingrid is second, Eloise. Oh, it's an AGM, I don't know.
Oh.
Cool.
It's the document we have. Oh yeah, okay. So just commenting here. So normally we'll say it was November 20th, 2023. So you should always have the date in before the meeting. So this should have been done in the agenda.
Can I just say one thing there too? Always make sure you put in the previous year's AGM, because that is one thing I notice that comes through on Rubric QPay, is that when people put in their AGM minutes, they often put in the date of the AGM minutes of the meeting that they're actually holding there and then. And you haven't finished that meeting, you're actually at that meeting. So it's always got to be the AGM minutes of the previous.
And the other one that happens a lot is people will say the last general meeting, not the last annual general meeting. There's a difference. In the AGM minutes, we only care about the last AGM, not the last general meeting. Important to
Just as a point here, I would put the item above the motion, because you like for the agenda, the motion hasn't been moved, but the item, the topic is the annual general minutes. So, because then I can go, so Liam's passed it, Ingrid seconded. Does anyone disagree? No?
Chris does.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, so passed. Does Chris abstain, or does he say no?
Abstained. He wasn't here at the
Okay.
last meeting, so he's decided
Yeah.
to abstain.
Something like that would be fine. It's important that you write passed. Or carried's fine as well. So then matters arising would be your action items. At an AGM, you might not have any, but I would put them at the bottom of the agenda. Liam, do you have any you can make up?
One of the matters arising was that we needed to change the bank signatories from 5 years ago when they were last updated to people that are actually still students. It took us 6 months to hunt them down just so we could change them, which is a nightmare, which every club has experienced, I think.
We can over.
And Ingrid can confirm that we have.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we can override that now, just so that everybody knows. Some of you do send an email just to say, you know, do you need the past, bank signatories to sign over the bank account? But trust me, you don't. All you need to do is just put a notice through on QPay, just to let us know that you want to change the bank signatories, and we can send you some information to let you know what you need to do to make that happen. But it doesn't matter that your past exec have moved on, we can give you access to the bank account. So that's not a problem.
So in other words, we found a loophole.
Read the handbook, Liam.
Yeah. Whatever. Then, correspondence.
The only inward correspondence was from TUSA that we needed to update our ABNs to be in line with the new recommendations, to make sure that we are a charity. Charity?
Working on that.
Yeah, that. So in other words, they won't tax us. Which only took us 10 minutes to fix.
Outward correspondence, Neil?
Would outward correspondence be re-affiliation paperwork, Eloise?
Could be, if you want it. But re-affiliation paperwork would include the AGM minutes.
So no outward correspondence?
Right, Neil. And the other thing here is, like, we've got inward correspondence and Appendix B. Really, the way I would be doing it is, I would say this particular TUSA letter is Appendix B, and then you might have a Environment Society letter is Appendix C, because, like, you might, if you have more than one, because then it's clear to readers what the appendix actually is. And just briefly, also, I would hyperlink the appendix with the link if you can.
So just delete the right-hand side appendixes if you got more appendix, so that way it actually corresponds and lines up with what you got
But
there.
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, even despite that, inward correspondence being the appendix isn't good practice. You should say what the correspondence is. So it should be here, and there should be a line, and then you should have TUSA letter. Like that. That's all. Let's keep going.
So President's report, I failed to circulate one because I'm a chair president. I'll have to give a verbal report. Things are going well. We're still appreciating the flamingos. And Ingrid is still our supreme leader.
Yep.
Chris, could you provide a treasurer's report?
Yes. What shall I say of this one? We're tracking well, I would say, yeah. We've raised $1,500 this year in our barbecue, for 5 different barbecues this year. 1,500, sorry, 15,000. Wow, dang. To basically donate to the Flamingo Preservation organization.
And I will say, like, although we are having fun, in an actual AGM or even just general meetings, treasurer's reports are 100% the most important thing that we really should
Exactly.
verbal report for. Having oversight of your society's finances is probably the most important thing. We are small. It is easy for money to go missing. So making sure that you have that good oversight and transparency to your members is crucial.
Yeah, the two main things we need to do in an AGM.
Report from Chris.
Yeah. But we'll have a segment on the bank fee buck, which is the next segment here, about, you know, what are golden rules for treasurers, and, like, you know, rules that you need to follow when you're delivering treasurer's report as well.
The two main things you need to do in an AGM are pass the minutes.
Just give us a second.
Just on the note of the treasurer's support, oh my God, support report, and presidential report and the other reports, are there two documents available for outlining what should pertain in those reports? I'm just thinking along the lines, particularly with the treasurer reports, that, you know, should, for example, all recent receipts need to be listed or anything like that? If it's, you know, you've got individual members who are out, you know, spending money for the club, and then the club's just transferring the money back to them. It might not be as like easy to or clear to see where that money is going if it's not being spent directly from the society's bank account. Sorry, that was a lot of questions and not very clearly asked. I'm sorry.
That's an Ingrid
Otherwise,
question.
Ingrid.
That's an Ingrid. I think we have balance sheets, don't we, for the treasurers?
There's nothing, there is a treasurer's report, template on the website to help you with the treasurer's report, but there's nothing in the way of like president's report to sort of guide you, but I don't know, we could have a look if you wanted us
But the,
something up with some guidelines and just
I mean,
help guide you if you wanted us to.
the
But
president's report isn't actually as important, in all honesty. Like it's a narrative report about what's happened in the organization and whether it's moved towards the aims and purposes of the organization. The treasurer's report is more legally binding. Like you need to actually have your money in order, but the president's report is more of a narrative. So I don't think we could give you a template that would accurately reflect what you might have done.
We've got no other subcommittee or other reports, Eloise, so we can delete that section. Let's go straight down to general business and election of committee members. I've received a nomination from Ron to take over as president for next year. And I'm happy to nominate, and Chris has said that he'll second. Chris has been removed as treasurer after his mismanagement. Ingrid is taking back over. And I'll nominate, and Ron can second. And I will go into the role of secretary. I've nominated myself as secretary with Chris and Ingrid moving in second. And we are a very small society, so unfortunately we don't have any roles. We just have the very basic 3 minimum roles. Who can move this, Eloise?
But you've already moved all of the positions.
But Ingrid?
we really need more people at the meeting, to be quite honest.
So,
Yeah, problem.
so to clarify, Ingrid, can any of the people that have been nominated for positions, can they be the mover and seconder of the election?
It's really a conflict of interest to nominate, you know, to vote on yourself.
So ideally you have general committee members that aren't in a position, or in most of our cases, outgoing members that are finishing university and moving on to the next stages of life.
And realistically, we would have more people at that meeting. So really, let's just assume that we do have more people at that meeting. So we'd just be asking everybody else at that meeting if everybody agrees to vote us in.
But that section, you also record who basically abstained or was against.
Yeah, but I said unanimously, so that means everyone said yes.
And Ingrid, if there was multiple nominees for a certain position, what would happen in that circumstance?
So then you would give every person the opportunity to come up and talk about how good they are and what they could offer and why they're the best person for the job. And then what would happen when you get to that voting part is that those people go out of the room while people vote, and you record that vote, and then you ask them to come back in.
So the bank signatories will be Ron, Ingrid, and myself. And Chris has moved it.
pretend we filled it out. We're endorsed as Ingrid's Flamingo Society, passed. And by 4 against. Yep.
I do not believe that, is there any constitutional amendments to be tabled? Nothing's been flagged. Our 30-year-old constitution, it hasn't been updated in 30 years, but we're going to leave it as is.
We have membership fees.
And the constitution still refers to TUSA as TUU. But anyway, membership fees, for next year, we're going to set them at $5 for students and $10 for associate members. What's the second blank there for, please?
That's just if you have a different type of solution, but really it's for the most part, it's not relevant. So you can just remove that underline.
Seconded.
And Ingrid second.
Depends when you do your AGM. Okay. And
then
passed?
finally, committee handover. There is none. Good luck.
Which what tends to happen.
I mean, this would mainly occur out of session, right? So you'd have action items. So like action, Chris, to discuss previous balance sheet with Karen.
It would be also
Chase.
president and secretary working together to submit re-affiliation paperwork.
Who was it?
Going and changing bank signatories at the bank.
ABN update.
ABN update, you know, like that's the sort of things that could be there. But more than anything, it's there as a reminder to remind people to talk about handover. I think a lot of us are taking over things where we haven't been handed over, and that is not a fun experience for anyone. And we'll call the meeting closed at 10:36. No other items of business have been raised. And the date of the next, surely we don't need a date of the next meeting on the AGM.
We normally just say like the month. I would like EBC November 2025, maybe.
Yep, perfect. And the meeting is closed. I just need a gavel.
And I would probably also have an action items list. Yeah, with the things I've recorded.
Can I just bring up one thing, just to put on everybody's radar, just with your AGMs coming up, that there are a few societies that have their constitutions haven't been updated, I'm going to say, for 20 years, and there are a few societies there. Some societies still are using TUU in their name. So if that does apply to your society, can you think about updating your constitution at your AGM? And just remember that you can use the name TUSA, or you can use Tasmanian with an N, University, blah, 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 society. So just keep that on your radar to update. Thanks.
Yeah, I hope it's okay to ask. But with regards to Rozelle, because most of it is fast tracked, the people who come in probably won't have seen the AGM minute, wouldn't have been at the AGM previously. So how could we know whether to amend the minutes?
So this issue happens with TUSA as well, because the president, currently the AGM membership is the chancellor of the university and the president normally changes every year, except Liam's addicted to TUSA, but normally it changes every year. So what we do, or what I've been doing, is I ask the previous president to approve the minutes.
Okay, awesome. And who can move and who can second? Is that just anyone on the committee? It doesn't like matter if it's the president or whatnot?
Yeah, anyone can do that.
Cool, thank you.